Hello friends, my name is Kusum Soni and I am presenting to you my motivation and engagement strategy video for my course PIDP 3250, and I am using Creative Commons to protect my video. Hope you will enjoy and leave some comments in the end. Are you an instructor like me? Uh, Everybody have some dream jobs, and mine was to work as a clinical instructor in a medical school or in a university. But the main issue is how to keep your students engaged and motivated. Have you ever faced this problem? Does that happen with you? That I just finished my instructions and giving directions to my students, and a student asked me what to do next. It can be very challenging, frustrating, and tiring at times, but what to do? Now, what will you do with those kind of students? And have you faced those challenges, or I'm the only one? Are you unsure what to do? I just research. Whenever I'm stuck and I'm dealing with tough students, I research which strategy will work for my students to increase their motivation and engagement, and it helps. So I did do some research, and I studied this student engagement techniques by Barclay, and I thought of using tip number 13, which says try to rebuild the confidence of discouraged and disengaged students, and this theory is given by Barclay in his book 2004 edition. So Barclay has given 4 types of discouraged and disengaged students. Firstly, the students with limited ability who truly do have difficulty in keeping up and have developed chronically low expectations and numbed acceptance of failure. Second type of students are the students whose failure attributions or ability beliefs make them susceptible to learn helplessness in failure situation. Third type of students are the ones who are obsessed with self-worth, and they focus on their performance goals rather than their learning goals. And there is a fourth type of students who underachieve due to their desire to avoid responsibility. So let's discuss the first type. They are the ones who get accepted into colleges with a low GPA, and then they continue with their difficulty in keeping up and chronically low expectations on themselves, and they don't work too hard. I often get these kind of students, especially when I was workshop facilitator at Work BC, when people were sent to me for the job search, when they are not motivated to do their job search, and in my class they were not paying attention because they are not motivated to find work, and they were forced to be in my workshops. People with disabilities, single parents, the young mothers who come back to work after long gap, they have kind of lost faith in in their own abilities. So it was hard to keep them motivated. Then that population was also focused on their failure rather than success, because for a long time they haven't studied, they haven't sat in a classroom, they haven't got into any job, so they always think that they're not going to pass. if they start a course, they are not going to pass, or they are going to fail in their job interview. So their focus is on their failure rather than their successes. That's the one of the most difficult crowd I have come across. The third type of students now who are obsessed with their self-worth, protection, and focus on their performance goals. So they are always worried about their percentage, passing the exams. They cram the textbooks. GPA means everything in life for them. They study alone and become lonely. They cut off themselves from the society, just focus on study, 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 nothing else. And that population is also difficult. And then if they get even 0.5 lesser grade than their expectation, they feel low. It's hard to keep up their motivations. And the fourth type, mostly the young college students who have lots of distractions in their life and study is not the prime goal. They believe in having too much fun and they avoid responsibility. They do not care if they finish the course in 1 year or 5 years, and in the college they have too much fun. That's also a difficult population in my classroom. What to do with such students? I used to be very, very frustrated with this population and never discussed with my colleagues or anybody else. And I just found it difficult, and sometimes I would discuss with my husband. I have this student in my class, I don't know what to do. And he was not from academia and could not give me any feedback. So I just struggled. Now, after taking this course PIDP 3250, where I got an opportunity to do some research and study that there are strategies available to support these discouraged and disengaged students, which shows a ray of hope for me. And I have started building my own strategies and taking help from others, especially our instructor. Whenever I have a question, I can ask. So there is a backup support system for me. I can take help. I came across this article where there are some strategies given, and this book, Student Engagement Techniques, is very helpful as a reference book. And whenever I have a question, I go through some pages of this book. One thing I'm sure that falling down is part of life. So is getting up. It's for me and to help my students. My strategy number 1: provide clear directions and structure. Dividing assignments into manageable parts with checkpoints and deadlines. So those students who have challenges in taking verbal instructions, I would give them written instructions and point by point written instructions so that I don't miss any details. My strategy number 2 is allow students to plan and set their own SMART goals. The SMART goals are significant, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. So I allow them to set their own personal goals, but I provide them with encouragement and that concentrates on their efforts and calls attention to their success. I'm always there as a backup, as a support system. Whenever they achieve their first step, baby steps I call them, so I reward them or I ask them to reward themselves. whenever they achieve their first step and second step and third step and go on. So that encourages them to move on to achieve their bigger goals. My strategy number 3, I organize resources for my students which help them move at their own pace, because every student have their own pace. That's what I have realized now teaching the adult learners, which is a major change I see in myself from a behaviorist to a humanistic, that every student in my class is not the same and everybody have a different pace, and I allow them to move on their own pace based on their mastery learning principles, and I respect their pace in a non judgmental manner, but I monitor their progress frequently and provide them tutoring support when needed. And I trust building is there, that you are there for them. So the focus is on student mastery, not on the speed of learning. I open educational resources for them. I even in the community, in the library, online, various methods, whatever works best for them. My strategy number 4 is to help students better understand themselves as learners. I facilitate sometimes self-esteem workshops, so that it is okay if you are slower than others. It's okay if it takes time for you to learn certain principles than your peers. And I let them explore which situations they find comfortable and which provoke their anxiety and why. So I provide them some tools to understand themselves. I'm not a psychologist, but sometimes little help is useful. And I also help them understand when they do or do not need help and become willing to get help when they need. So I encourage student autonomy. In student autonomy, where the student focus on their ability, freedom and desire, and which is really, really beautiful and helpful to engage certain students. My strategy number 5 is emphasizing your role as a resource person and a facilitator, not as a behaviorist teacher, that I'm talking and you are listening. So I help them to find their purpose, and I'm there to assist them in their self-learning efforts to meet their purpose of life. My strategy number 6 is demonstrate some empathy, that I understand what they're going through. And these students need some determination and confidence and a sense of belonging, which I provide them, that I'm there for them. I validate their weak points. I act like a life coach and a motivator for them, which is sometimes really, really helpful. My strategy number 7, do not give up. I never give up on my students, because my role as a teacher and facilitator is not to become a how beautiful and how successful teacher I am, but my role is to provide my students some tools to achieve their goals. So I use these principles of self and safe environment, supportive environment. I'm available for interaction with them, and I help them stay engaged in the class. So I use these references and I downloaded the pictures from Google from free download, and these articles were really helpful. Hope you enjoyed my video, and I encourage you to leave some comments. Thank you for watching my video, and I invite you for positive constructive feedback. Thank you.